What's up, everybody? Azazel 2012 here with you, and I got some hunted gameplay on Stormfront, starting off with the 44 Magnum. I used to actually own one of these, the Dirty Harry gun, just like this one, actually, very similar to it. A lot of fun to shoot. Very expensive to own, though, because the ammunition is ridiculously expensive with it. So I want to share with you today why I've been gone for about the last week and pretty much been non-existent on YouTube, not really even watching very many videos or anything. Last week, on Wednesday, I got bad news. My grandfather had passed away. And my grandparents and I in this area were always very, very close. We got along. They basically raised me as a child. Now, I'm not doing this commentary because I want pity. I'm not doing this commentary because I want people to be sad for me. I'm actually doing this commentary so I can share a hilarious story about my grandfather. Now, if he were alive, he wouldn't want me to share this story, but he is not, so I'm going to do it because it's hilarious. And it's one of the funniest things I've ever heard about a man of his age. And my grandfather was 89 years old and did a lot with his life. He lived a really full life, right? I cannot in the least bit be upset about him passing away at 89 years of age, considering everything he's done. I hope that I will have accomplished everything that he has accomplished by the time I'm that old, if I live to be that old. So I want to get to it. This is a really interesting story. I don't really know how to start this story, other than it was told to me by my cousin, who is about 7 years older than me. And when I was about 19 or 20, so it's been about 10, almost 11 years ago, my grandmother passed away. My grandfather, whom I'm speaking about's wife. She passed away. And, of course, my grandfather was heartbroken because he'd been with this woman for 50 years of his life, so he was, crushed, as would, I think, anyone be. Now, my grandfather is also not quite illiterate, but he's very uneducated. He can read a little, and he could write a little, but that's about it. Not even that much, He could write a little bit here and there, and he could sign his own name. So my cousin was living with him, and my cousin and I, we were the only boys in the family, so we were kind of the favorites. He was living with my grandfather and helping him out, pay bills, help around the house, and things like that, just help him out with everything that a person would need who's elderly, while still allowing them to be independent and to be, on their own. So one day, my cousin was going through my grandfather's finances and realized that about $100 to $150 was just missing, and it was unaccounted for. So my cousin went to my grandfather and said, "Hey, there's some money missing from your account. Do you know what it's for?" And my granddad was just like, don't worry about that. Don't worry about it. So my cousin didn't think anything of it. It's his money, right? It's my grandfather's money. So lo and behold, my grandfather, had ordered something special for himself. And I don't know how he did it, whether it was a catalog or someone ordered it for him, but he didn't make it known. Now, at the time, friends of my cousins would come over to the house and keep my grandfather company sometimes, just kind of hang out with him, talk to him and stuff, shoot the shit. Good old boys, a bunch of country people, all right? And when they would come over, they just talk to him or whatever, and one day, one of my cousin's friends made a joke that my grandfather needed to go out and find him a new woman. And my granddad's from the hills of Kentucky response was, "This old pecker of mine is about as limp as a wet dish rag." And my grandfather was full of many sayings like that, none of which he really shared until long after my grandmother had passed away. So this was a shock to us. This was a shock that he had said something like that. We're like, wow, my granddad just said pecker and was talking about boners. That's hilarious. So a couple weeks later, after the whole money thing has disappeared or whatever, my cousin comes home, and there's my grandfather sitting in his recliner in the living room, staring at a book of directions, unable to really read them, and he's holding a bunch of pieces to something in his lap. And my cousin didn't know what it was, and he's like, "What the hell is that?" And at about this time, he saw the directions and realized that it was a cock pump, a penis pump. My grandfather, who at the time was maybe 81, 80, something like that, give or take. It had been a couple years since my grandmother passed away, so the details may be minor but askew. But so he had purchased himself a cock pump so that he could get himself an erection. And of course, this freaked out my cousin because he realizes now he has to help my grandfather put this penis pump together. So he helps my grandfather put it together, and he's like, all right, I'm done, I'm out. That's it. That's all you're getting from me. I don't want to be here for the rest of the shit. And gets the penis pump put together, gives it to my granddad, and my cousin goes down to the basement where he was staying at. That's where he lived. It's basically a separate house all of its own. And my grandfather comes running to the basement door, you know, as fast as an 80-something-year-old man can run, I guess, and comes screaming down the stairs. And he goes, "It worked! I'm back! And I'm still alive!" So my grandfather had purchased a penis pump to get an erection, and lo and behold, it worked for him. Now, that's not the end of the story. A couple of weeks later, a couple of my cousin's friends were hanging out at the house, shooting the shit with my grandfather, and my grandfather was out on the porch when my cousin got home, and he's holding the penis pump, talking to one of my cousin's friends. What I came to find out was that he was trying to sell his gently used penis pump to one of my cousin's friends, because he obviously didn't need it anymore. He was 80-something years old. But the kicker of all of this is that not only did he buy a penis pump, not only did he use a penis pump, and not only did he try to sell a used penis pump, he tried to sell a used penis pump at the full price at which he paid for it. He didn't even give him a used price, and told him that the reason he was charging full price was because it was already put together and it was a pain in the ass to get put together. Alright, so hopefully you guys enjoy that story. That's one of many about my grandfather. I might share some more interesting stories about my family. You guys have a good night. It's been Azazel 2012. Here's some gameplay on Hunted Stormfront shit. Go like 18 or 16 and 8 or something. Fun game type. Give it a try. You guys have a good night. Later.